How is it already that we're at Wave 5? What is going on, everyone? My name is Akris, and today we're going to be ranking Wave 5, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. As I've done for all the rankings of all the waves that we got so far, waves 1, 2, 3, and 4, I will be ranking them from a scale from D tier to A tier, and letting you guys know my opinions and some of the more or less secrets and things you can use at the tracks while doing so. This wave was honestly a banger, so without further ado, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's jump right to the first track, which is Athens Dash. Yes sir, the first track of the brand new DLC. It's another city track as per usual. We are seeing pretty much a city track at the start of every cup so far, and Athens Dash is the most recent addition to Mario Kart Tour, aside of Rome Avanti, which still needs to get into the game, which will most likely be Wave 6. Now, Athens is of course the capital of Greece in Europe, but overall, it does not really feel like a city track to me, because you're mostly really in the mountains and just, honestly, it gives me real big, huge Choco Mountain vibes at certain points in time. Anyways, let's get into the layout, and it starts off nice and swell. You go for a nice trick, you go for the Colosseum, nicely inspired by the old Roman era. Honestly, really cool start, if I do have to say so myself. You go to a glider section, which goes a little too slow for my liking, but it's alright. You go up a mountain a bit, and that's the end of lap 1. Nothing too crazy yet. And then you go into lap 2, which is kind of like the start of the first lap, but then with a few more ramps, and then instead of going left, you're going right. Now, what my problem is with Athens really gets shown off in this moment right here, and also later on in the track. And that is that you don't really know where to go. If I've got to be honest, I did my first, my first playthrough of all the tracks recently. I also uploaded that to YouTube. And I did not know for the life of me where to go, because the camera just doesn't show well and can't show you where to go. So it's fairly hidden, which is right when you land after the ramps on lap 2 and have to go into a small passageway. I did not really like that fact, and same with what we'll be seeing in a second once we go up the temple. You can have different options which you can go to, but you can't really see well which options you can go to. I like that you go up like the temple, but the camera is not really made in mind with the way you're driving over there. And yeah, we're going to jump into lap 3, and lap 3 is pretty much starts off with a glider section with the first actual part where you can see actual houses in a city track, which is nothing really that we see in the city tracks, because usually you're pretty much in the city, which is such a cool way of, you know, showing off Athens. As you glide past, you go to like a small Choco Mountain section, you go over a few boost panels, and pretty much end the lap with the same stairs that end at lap 2. Overall, great addition to Mario Kart Tour, and I think Greece was such a good choice to get a city based off of. Not really one you see a lot of in video games, unless it's like an historic take, which they've done over here as well. And I really like that they went into more of like the old like Acropolis and like the old times take in here, rather than, you know, oh man, it's not a metropolitan city. So honestly, I really enjoyed Athens Dash. I do think the camera for this one is terrible, and we've seen it mostly with half-pipe sections, especially on DK Summit back during Wave 4, that the camera is not really made for some of these tracks. But honestly, it only made it deteriorate by a slight bit. But I would have to give Athens Dash an A. What a start already. Daisy Cruiser is up next, and honestly, this is such a good retro track to pick. We haven't seen a lot from Mario Kart Double Dash so far, with only the first track dropping in Wave 4 being Waluigi Stadium, which was overall an alright track, but not one of my favorites. And now we're getting into one of my personal favorites from Double Dash, as we are on Daisy's cruise ship, who we already saw sail past in both Sydney Sprint and Coconut Mall, so it's cool to see that we actually get to race on it as well, outside of it just being a nice cameo. Either way, this is loosely based off of the version based in Mario Kart 7, which is pretty much the same one as in the Mario Kart Tour, which means that once you go past the first section of the track, you get to go into the pool again, which used to be, you know, a place where you had to fall down. Back in Double Dash, you couldn't get back up, since there was no underwater driving in Mario Kart Double Dash, but of course in Mario Kart 7 that got introduced. Very cool pool with a nice addition of the Singapore Speedway Goombas who are in there, who can again block your path just like in Singapore Speedway, but you can also use a mushroom to hit them away and get past them, but they're not too hard to hit. They're not a huge obstacle. Overall, that part of the stage has been made a bit easier by making it underwater rather than, you know, you falling down, but still a solid section to begin with. Outside of that, you drive back down and you go through the dining hall, which used to be a nice place, you know, to eat. But, you know, during the races, it's, you know, the table's going left and right because a cruise ship is never just still in the ocean. It's always moving. Now, as someone who has been on a cruise ship, they don't move as much as they do over here, but they do move quite a bit. I love the addition that there are actually people eating here now, back during Mario Kart Double Dash, but also during Mario Kart 7. No one was actually eating there, and there was just some tables in the dining hall just going left and right. But it's a really nice addition that they are now included. Afterwards, you have a nice split path where you can either go down to the cellar, which is still flooded for some reason, which is the slow route. It is cool to see the clamps though from Mario Kart 7 making an appearance, the ones from New Super Mario Bros. I don't know if they actually have a name, but like they're little clamp shells with item boxes in there, and then you just jump back out. Otherwise, you just take 2 turns, which is a lot faster, and just make your way outside. And after a final turn, that pretty much does it for the track. And I've already said this on stream multiple times, but yeah, Daisy Cruiser is like my favorite Double Dash track so far in the game. Like, what do we have before? Like, Dry Desert is one of my least favorite maps in the entire game. Yoshi Circuit is pretty cool. Waluigi Stadium was alright. Baby Park's just a funny meme track. And we have Sherbet Land, which is, it's alright as well. Like, we haven't really seen the standouts from Double Dash yet, in my opinion. And this is definitely one of them. And I still love Daisy Cruiser in this version. The music did it so justice. I think visually it looks great as well. Such a good addition, and I hope to see 1 or 2 more Double Dash tracks in the final wave, as we haven't seen too many of them, but they're such great tracks. Daisy Cruiser gets an A for me. Moonview Highway is a track that not a lot of people predicted to get in the wave 5 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, but here it is regardless. Another Wii track. Yes, we all have like 8 or 9 Nitro Wii tracks, which is insane to think about. We have, you know, the big 4, but we also have DK Summon and now Moonview Highway, which are also classics outside of, you know, the big 4 that everybody loves unanimously. But it's cool to see Moonview Highway in here, as back during the original Mario Kart 8, I always thought it was Toad's Turnpike that got reintroduced in that game was always on Moonview Highway. As a kid, I had never played on N64 Toad's Turnpike. I later only found out that it's a completely different track. So this is a nice pleasant surprise, but the 4th traffic track, I think we've had enough after this one though. Like, this one definitely does a lot to differentiate itself, but overall after Toad's Turnpike, but also Shroom Ridge and the section on Berlin Byways for lap 2, I think we've had enough after Moonview Highway. Either way, let's just start off, and first I gotta say, man, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like, music team is so good, but especially on this map, they go in hard. I love how they still have different versions for when you're just driving around, but also in the city, there's a different version. Such bangers as well, great musical choices. And I love at the start of the track, you can still go up the mountain, but you can also, there's also a new one at the start as well, which is a nice addition. And of course, the bomb cars are back at it again, which is the main reason why I'm never going to choose this track in competitive ever, because someone could just throw a green shell at that or anything else and it will explode, and it's going to be a huge hazard. It's going to get hit by it. You don't want to get hit by the huge hitbox, but it's such a nice addition. People have already told me like that they wanted to see the bomb car now on other tracks as well, but like, this is a mainstay on Moonview Highway. Don't really see this on other stages, and also I don't think it would work as well on stages like Toad's Turnpike or Shroom Ridge, because for Shroom Ridge I feel like the road is just not like big enough for the explosion, you know, to be able to dodge it at all. And for N6 for Toad's Turnpike, I think like the polar opposite, that you're never gonna get hit by him. Anyhow, as we move into the city, it's pretty much still the same. It looks beautiful, and the dash panels, once you get to the city, are still there, and they are still random, which is super cool. I really like that. And after that, you go back into the tunnel, go through the nice thingies where the meats are now replaced, and yeah, that is pretty much the end of the race. I don't really know how to really comprehend that, but it's nice that the sound effect is still the same. It is unfortunate to see that the Miis have been changed from the original Wii version, but we already saw that, I believe, with a different track as well, if I do recall. Wait, that was Coconut Mall with the Shy Guys. But overall, really banger track. I really like that compared to like Toad's Turnpike, that it's the same way with Shroom Ridge, that there's actually like turns and stuff to the track rather than just, you know, you going forward, which is really nice. Moonview Highway overall does feel like it's a bit easier because there's a lot less traffic this time around, and it's also vehicle track, which are not some of my favorites. You can't really do like a lot of shortcuts and things like that, so if you want to make a comeback happen on this track, you're really going to need a star and a shock dodge, which is also not one of my favorite things to do, but outside that, it's a nearly perfect recreation of the Wii version, and I already really enjoyed this map on Mario Kart Wii, so I'm gonna give this track a B tier because this track is absolute banger for the music. Like, the City Sprint guy's just back. It's time to get squeaky clean, boys. Yes, it's the track that they have been advertising this wave alongside of, which is Squeaky Clean Sprint, a track that was named Mob BR back in the files of Mario Kart Tour, and is now the brand new Squeaky Clean Sprint in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know if we've already seen this track in Tour, but, you know, as I stated, it was found in the files of Tour. I called Mob BR, Mob Bathroom, mobile version Bathroom, and it's now in 8 Deluxe, so I'm definitely still expecting that one to get into Tour then. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. We're here to talk about a banger track with such amazing references and such a banger song. I don't know why this song goes so hard for a bathroom-themed course. Anyhow, you start off the stage by jumping into a tub, I believe, or a sink, and then just tricking out of it. Which afterward, you make your way into a nice, like, tunnel section, I would call it. Where you go into the sink itself. Poor person who lost their ring, though that does really suck. I like this section that's here, although I would say that it's not really wide enough for 12 players, because you can only barely fit with your own person in there. Like, it gets really clustered very quickly. I do like the addition, though, that you go a little faster in there, because that's pretty much how a sink works. After that, you make your way back out. There's a nice fan. Half-pipe section, which is pretty much useless because taking the inside is way faster, but of course might be difficult thanks to the fan. And you can use your mushrooms to get through the soap. After that, you fly over the hee-hee-ha-ha toilet because, you know, it's a bathroom themed track. There's no way we're not going to include a toilet. And then you have the choice for either going up or down, which for lap 1 you always have to go downwards. Where there's a nice shortcut kind of reminiscent of GBA Skygarden, where you could take a mushroom and skip that part. But if you're on laps 2 or 3, the toilet actually spews out some water, and you can use the momentum of that by tricking up to go to another section, which is way faster, which I always recommend you going for. Even if you have a mushroom for the shortcut that I just mentioned, it's still way faster. It's on the inside, it's way better. And honestly, this track is super unique. I only have like a few minor gripes, like there's not really any shortcuts. Well, there is, like right before the glider section, but yeah, it's not really something you pull off way too often. You can go through the ring as well to get a double box back during the sink section. And, you know, at the end, so I mean, that point is not really valid, but the shortcuts don't really feel as significant in this track. Anyways, at least for what I've played of it so far. Outside of that, my main gripe is when you're in the little sink section that it's way too narrow, as I mentioned before, which definitely takes it down a little bit. I feel like, yes, of course, that the inside should not be like it was super wide, because that's not how it's supposed to be, but it should be like at least a little wider, because now, like, if you look back at my first time playthrough, that was an issue in Athens Dash as well, but apparently for this track as well. If you don't know where to go to, then you're just hitting the wall over and over again in that section, which makes it better, of course, for pros, but you know, it's not really newcomer friendly. Outside that, the references are key, they're on point. I think the visuals for this track is great. I think it shows off that a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but there's like a small niche that doesn't really like underwater tracks, and I feel like those even enjoy this track because it makes it go by a lot faster, especially in that apprehensive, or like that part which I just talked about, the sink part. So honestly, would give this track an A. If only it had like, outside of 3 really small shortcuts, maybe one a little bigger one, a little more significant one, then it would be higher. Then it would probably be an S tier. But for now, banger music, banger track, great references, A tier for squeaky clean sprint. We finally got our showers, gamers. Wow, that was a pretty good wave so far. But before we continue on, we are going to take a look at some more of the other additions that got included in this wave. During Wave 5, there wasn't a huge new inclusion like in Wave 2 where they changed up the cars at Coconut Mall, Wave 3 with customized, or Wave 4 the introduction of new characters. But this time around we do have 3 brand new characters to talk about. The 3 new characters this time around are PD Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek, 3 new enemies that are all such great additions to the Mario Kart roster in my opinion. I even successfully predicted all 3 of these, not all in like the Booster Course passes that I wanted, but as some of the possibilities that I mentioned during my predictions video from a few weeks back. As I stated during that video, in the original Mario Kart 8, the roster felt kind of samey and felt like it had quite a few clones. But with the addition of more characters such as Birdo and this time around Wiggler, PD, and Kamek, it definitely feels like the roster is just purely improving because there's just more characters that are just unique and cool and great additions, great classics overall, and I can't wait to play as more of them. I've even been considering Wiggler or maybe even Kamek like a new co-main of mine compared with Bowser Jr. And I've never even teamed up with another character outside of Bowser Jr. before in this game, even though I've played it for so long. But you'll always still be there. Overall great additions, and I'm super happy to have them in the game. Let's get on with the second cup and, of course, Los Angeles laps. Welcome back to the United States, one and all. Last time we were here, we were in Wave 2's New York Minute, which was not really one of my favorite tracks ever. But now we are here, luckily, for Los Angeles Laps, one of my 2 most anticipated city tracks from Mario Kart Tour. And honestly, they did such a good job with this track. And yeah, with the way they just included it. Usually with the city tracks, you go over the same like locations multiple times. But this time around, it's a section-based track, just like Mount Warrior, just like we saw with 3DS Rainbow Road, and of course N64 Rainbow Road. And it suits the track really, really nice. You start off the track by going onto the Santa Monica Pier, which is of course something which Los Angeles is very much well known for, especially for us Pokemon Go players out there. We remember that, but during the 2016. Anyways, now I'm getting a bit off track. You go over towards the skate park, which now includes a half pipe, which is a nice addition since, you know, skaters do like nice half pipes. But yeah, afterwards, I would say you have a bit of a blind corner again, just like how we had back during Athens Dash. Now you have to go towards the left, but it kind of really showed off that we have to go through the water, which you can go into a little bit and make a nice water propeller like up here, but that was a weird angle. And I also feel like the next few turns are also a tad bit awkward to pull off on Los Angeles laps. But overall, a great way to enter Los Angeles and start off the track. And then we move into lap 2, which we go through, I believe it's called Dodger Stadium. I've heard Matsuno and Hawks talk about this a little here and there, but overall a really cool addition to fly through the Dodger Stadium. Although I must wonder, why is this included in lap 2 rather than lap 3? Like, this seems like, you know, on the final lap of Tokyo Blur or N64 Rainbow Road, where you go through like the, where you just fly at the end. And especially this one feels like really climactic with everybody cheering you on. I think it would have been great if it was like at the end of the track. Oh well. I think that's just an unfortunate choice, especially if you see where we go to next, which is Beverly Hills, and then straight into lap 3 with the, I don't even know what it is, like the oil fields, the mines or whatever. I think this is, also from what I heard before, like one of the most hated parts of Los Angeles laps, which is overall considered a phenomenal city track, and I feel like they did not really do a good job with it here either, because like Los Angeles isn't really known for this. It's known for like the tourists, and like there's not even like the Hollywood or the Walk of Fame or something like that. That would have been cool to see as well. But instead we have this, which was also very poorly textured, if I do say so myself. And yeah, you do 2 more turns, which you can also make use of with 2 mushrooms or a star to still get past some people, and then drive back onto the Santa Monica Pier. Now, my main issue with this track is laps 2 and 3. I think they should have been switched around, and I think that could have made for a better ending. Either way, I feel like the variety here is on point. It's very key. to show you like new things that are happening in like now you're here, now you're in this place, now you're in the stadium, now you're like mining, now you're in Beverly Hills, now you're on the Santa Monica Pier. Like it starts straight off with you going, you know, on the beach and you're just going from place to place to place. Like variety is the second name of Los Angeles laps. Although it could have been executed a tad bit better, maybe with a little more to do in Beverly Hills rather than just 2 turns like we've seen already in Vancouver Velocity, as well as Bangkok Rush. The way you go through like the houses there a little bit is they maybe going through a house or something like the Opera House back during Sydney Sprint. I don't know. Either way, it's a really phenomenal track. Really enjoyed it. My other main gripe is that it's now daytime rather than sunset. I think it being at sunset made it a lot more beautiful, but also distinguished itself. But probably due to another track, which we're going to get into in a second, that did not happen. But the daytime also suits it quite nicely, as I'm going to give Los Angeles laps a B tier. It's insanely cool to see how much love Mario Kart Super Circuit has been getting so far in the Booster Course Pass, with pretty much every wave getting a new GBA track. From Sky Garden to Snowland to Blue Lake and Riverside Park, they've all been incredibly well. And now one of the most anticipated and most unique tracks from that game, Sunset Wilds, is finally here. A track that's actually been leaked for quite a while for the Booster Course Pass as well. And it's finally here. And honestly, I think it's my favorite desert track in the game currently. With a great layout. If you start off, you go for a nice few turns with something that I guess is mud. It kind of reminds me of the weird mud things that were back on Choco Island on the Super Nintendo with Mario Kart. With when I played one of the Choco Islands back during Mario Kart DS, I also thought it was kind of weird. And it kind of has the same use as that. So I think it's something like that. You can dodge it though, not instead of by tricking as on Choco Island back in the day, you go on boost panels instead. Which is really nice. That leads into a nice turn that's also kind of like a weird turn, kind of like how you had during Athens Dash as well as Los Angeles laps, into a nice few tipiats, I guess, with the worker Shy Guys there mining. I don't know why they're mining at, you know, Sunset Wilds. Maybe something would have been like a different name or something like that, or like a cave would be interesting, because I don't know what they're doing here, but hey, I like the Explorer Shy Guys, and I think it's great. Maybe the mountains in the background, I don't know. It's not really explained like where they are going to mine or whatever, but these might be the same Shy Guys from Shy Guy Falls who were also mining. Either way, continuing on from the Minecrafting Shy Guys, we go over to 2 more jumps, which are nicely elevated by a nice elevated turn. Right before the end, which you could use also a mushroom to skip a nice section over there. If you have quite a few mushrooms or maybe a star, you can also skip like the tippy hut sections from the Shy Guys earlier as well. But that is pretty much it for the track, and I think it's a really fun track again. I really like the layout. I think it's definitely the best desert track in the game. Like, you can still skip a lot of stuff, just like on Calamari Desert and Dry Desert and Mo-Dry Dunes. But yeah, it's just a lot more fun. It has more personality to it. It's finally a desert track that has something to it, because Dry Desert is just a dry desert with an oasis in it. Bone Dry Dunes is like, I don't even know what Bone Dry Dunes is. I like the doing some nice turns on there, but that's about it. And Calamari Desert pretty much is there for the train. For this one, I really like it. It has its own personality with the Shy Guys and everything. But the other major personality factor, unfortunately, here is missing, though, which is the sun setting, which is literally in the name of the track, by the way, mind you. Sunset Wilds. Yeah, it's honestly insane to me. A lot of people have been saying, oh, but yeah, Mario Kart 8's engine does not, cannot do this or cannot pull this off or whatever. Guys, it was brought back in Mario Kart Tour. Yes, maybe it's not made for, but we've seen plenty of tracks, especially during the base game, which were changed for the better, like by doing crazy stuff in there as well. We also have Grumble Volcano, which also changes from lap to lap. Yes, it doesn't change like the background of the map or whatever, but I feel like this is another situation, just like how we had the Shy Guys now moving into cars and Coconut Mall back during Wave 1. And it's honestly baffling to me that they took this out. Like, it's Nintendo, it's not like a part of the engine. They can just go in there and probably fix it. But I think if we have that one, this track might be an A tier for me, but because of that, it misses a huge part of personality and definitely makes it go lower. With it, it would have also been by far the best desert track. Now people will still say a few other ones, but still I think it's really fun to play on, but I have to unfortunately give it a C tier. The Big Four is finally complete, with Wii's Koopa Cape finally being in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And now I don't have to hear my friends saying, oh my god, I want Koopa Cape to me every single day anymore, luckily. And yeah, Koopa Cape is here, and honestly, it's really great as it used to be. Let's get into the track, which you start off again with a huge jump. And I make a few turns. The Goomba is luckily still there. The half-pipe finally returns from Mario Kart Wii as well, which was missing in Mario Kart 7. Probably already brought back during Tour, but unfortunately on a Play Tour. And then you go back on the river section, and I really like this section, especially now that it's way more apparent in this version that the music changes. And I've told you guys this before, I really like when the music changes, like it's so dynamic. That's why Mario Galaxy also had such great sound design, in my opinion. That's also what I thought was really nice about Singapore Speedway back during Wave 4. It's just a nice way to convey that you're in a different part of the track, and Koopa Cape does this very well. You're definitely fast when you go on the river, but you can probably miss quite a few item boxes, and you can go over towards the right to grab one without the river, but it's slower, but at least you have a guaranteed double box. You can still make a nice shortcut there if you have a mushroom. Otherwise, you have to go and zigzag through a little bit into the tunnel section, which is once again underwater, but now in anti-gravity as well. So this is the first track so far of Wave 5 to have anti-gravity. And it's kinda, I don't know what to say about the tunnel section yet. We'll get into that in a second. Either way, once you jump out, it's pretty much the end of the track. Now, I still have to say that Koopa Cape is a banger track, and they did a fantastic job with it. But it's definitely different from the original Koopa Cape back during Mario Kart Wii, as they removed the glider section they added in Mario Kart 7, which honestly was one of the best improvements from that version, because the tunnel section also got kind of ruined in Mario Kart 7, but that was a nice addition, but they for some reason took that one out. If it was, by the way, included, then we would have a track with and gliding and anti-gravity and underwater and half-pipes with all of the funny like haha gimmicks in there, but unfortunately that didn't happen. I think the mounts, by the way, look very, very ugly. Do not sit the track at all. It reminds me of Shroom Ridge. But when you go to the tunnel section, I don't think it's worse. It's definitely different from Mario Kart Wii, and I definitely still prefer that with the nice stream of water in the middle and then the electrical wires that can also like shrink you. But I think with putting the anti-gravity pads there, it kind of emulates that, and it's also not as long of a section anymore as it used to be during Mario Kart Wii. And also giving you the choice to grab yourself some extra items right before the end is also a nice addition. Was not expecting an underwater half-pipe, but that is an interesting decision. But overall, the major complaint I've heard is that it's too short, and honestly, I can see that, but it doesn't really ruin the track, as Mario Kart 8, with most of its retro tracks, does make the track smaller, because of the fact that Mario Kart 8, if compared to other games in this series, it's just about, okay, you do now another drift, and do another drift, and then just continue on, like it just does action to action to action, rather than you having to drive forward for a while. Except Toad's Turnpike, but we don't talk about that one. But overall, I still think this is a perfect track. I think this is still, like, Maple Tree will always be my favorite of the Big Four, but Koopa Cape is still such a banger of a track. And even with the issues that I pointed out, yes, it could have, you know, like the Wii version is still the better version, but there's no way that I cannot give this an S tier. Like, come on, dude, it's Wii Koopa Cape. It's finally here, so deserving of the S tier. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, okay, that's enough. But we got Vancouver Velocity, the final, I guess, Tour City track of the wave. I was about to say the final Tour City track, which we know right now, but no, we still have Rome Avanti, of course. But this was one of the first 5 city tracks, and unanimously agreed upon by most Tour fans to be the best Tour City track, and the one most people were hyped for, including me, because of the fact that what Athens Dash pulled earlier as well, of it not purely being in a city, which Vancouver uses to its advantage so well. Anyhow, let's actually get to the track now before I get into gushing about it on, like, I could just make a 20-minute episode or maybe even like an hour-long podcast about how good Vancouver is and all the amazing details and everything, but that's not what you're here for. You're here for me to rank them. So, we're going to start off with a nice turn towards the right, which is based off of Vancouver Velocity 1, which is pretty much the first lap for Vancouver Velocity. where you go under the Olympic fire, which is nice and lit compared to what it is actually in real life. It only really had that when the Olympic Games were held there back during 2010 or during the anniversary in 2020. But afterwards, you go into a nice nature area, do a nice few turns over there. Really satisfying turns, really cool. You can also go over the wall. Some bats are chilling over there as well, apparently. I don't know why, but they're a nice obstacle, which is something most city tracks also lack, in my opinion. So that is great to have there. And then you jump on the bridge, which is, thank goodness, in anti-gravity. Yes, nice addition, as there are 2 boost panels there as well. The first city track to include it as well. And you go gliding back down, and that is pretty much it for lap 1. You can go for a nice shortcut with a mushroom there, which is also something the city track does well. I feel like with a lot of them, they don't have a lot of shortcuts, but hey, that is a huge one right there at the start, right at the end of lap 1. For lap 2, we go to Vancouver Velocity 2R. I wish we could have gone and done the regular Vancouver Velocity 2 route, but it's still a good route. As we go through a different nature, or I guess in a different nature area in Vancouver, I guess, which we do a nice few turns with. There's some water there. You can't go in the water. And there's a nice hidden shortcut there if you have a mushroom, which you can't take and use to your advantage, which skips a lot of the part of the track, which is nice. It's a nice addition as you then proceed to glide on into Rogers Arena, I believe it's called. And some Shy Guys back from Sherbetland from the GameCube track are just ice skating there. I believe it's mainly held, mainly like sporting events like ice hockey get held there, not really like ice skating, but it's very interesting. And you go through in a really narrow exit on the left, and you pretty much end the lap via that. Now lap 3, honestly, is one of the more weaker routes for Vancouver Velocity. Lap 1 and 2 were very unique. Lap 3, you go through a sort of tunnel-ish area and then through another part of the city. First actual part really in the city outside of like the starting line. And it's kind of like the Beverly Hills area earlier from Los Angeles laps. You just go like zigzagging for a second and that's really it. And then you go back into the Rogers Arena and then outside again. This time around, luckily, yeah, different exit, but that is pretty much it after like 2 more turns. So I gotta say lap 3 is a lot weaker because it feels like lap 2, but worse. I think more could have been done. I think if we went into Vancouver 2, then glided into the nature area and then like gone into the Rogers Arena like backwards or something would have been maybe a bit more cooler. I don't know. The fact that after you go through Vancouver 1, that part really doesn't get used anymore, which is unfortunate because that was honestly the best part. Like they opened up so strong. But still, I can have my complaints all I want, but you know, because I know the track so well, I have the possibilities for it to be like this myself. But overall, it's perfect the way it is. I think it starts off so strong by going to the nature area with lots of fun drifts. The coin placements there are really nice. There's enemies there. The glider section at the end of lap 1 is very nice. Like everything just feels so satisfying, and with the amazing music to boot, it just makes it better and better. I already mentioned the shortcut on lap 2, but it's so good, and even at the ends of laps 2 and 3, there's a nice part where you can also use a mushroom, which doesn't save you too much, but you go more on the inside, and it helps you either way. Yeah, sorry, I cannot give Vancouver an S tier. It definitely satisfied me. I am super happy this track is finally in. I was expecting this one to get into Wave 6 because it's more a winter-themed track. But luckily it's already in here, and you all already know that this was my most anticipated Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track, and I gotta say, even though I love all the other tracks we've gotten so far in the DLC, this one's my favorite as it does so much unique stuff in it, yet also being a normal city track. It shows you what type of maps and tracks that the creators are still capable of making if we got a new game instead. But instead, of course, you have the DLC with new tracks. Well, of course, if you play Tour, you've already played these, but you know, it's still a new track and with such good music. It makes you so hyped, so pumped. I cannot explain to you guys the one time I played with a big smile on this map. Because that'll never happen. It never ceases to put a smile on my face. This is my favorite track in the game currently. An S tier for Vancouver Velocity. So what did you think? Overall, as I stated during the beginning, I feel like Wave 5 was such a huge upgrade over all the previous waves in terms of the quality of the tracks, because none of them this time around felt like they really didn't belong here at all. And overall, were such great upgrades. A lot of fan favorites, like a lot of people were asking for Daisy Cruiser, for example, Koopa Cape. And I'm super happy to have them all in this game. It honestly feels crazy that we only have one more wave left upon us, even though this journey started over a year ago. It really doesn't feel like we've been going for that long. Overall though, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.